Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Getting to After podcast. My name is Chatone Morrison, and right away you'll notice that I'm by myself. My co-host Morganne Bustos has been under the weather for over a week, and she's been pushing herself, pushing herself, pushing herself. And we said, you know what? It's time to rest that voice. It's interesting because today's topic is all about caregivers. Caregivers need a whole lot of love, and that's what this entire episode is about. The series that we've been doing this month, the last few weeks, is called Love Doesn't Hurt. And the entire goal is support midlife women with empowerment and a safe place to feel like themselves, to feel like you're seen, like you're heard, like someone is actually paying attention. And for many of us, caregiving is just an everyday thing. I mean, obviously, you may have a husband, you may have children, you may have jobs that you have to do caregiving for. But when we start talking about actual caregiving as a topic, we're talking about those additional things that you have on top of you. Maybe you're taking care of a mother, a grandmother. I even know a young woman who hasn't reached midlife yet, but has already stepped into the role of taking care of a sibling because of his differing abilities, being able to support her mom. In fact, I know two Gen Z girls that are doing that. Powerful young women who realize that caregiving is going to be a part of their life for their entire lives, and they've stepped into it with joy. However, to stay in joy, you have to get the love you need. And sometimes the hurt comes from us because we feel we have to do every single thing every single time, and we don't leave room for help. The first two episodes of this series, Love Doesn't Hurt, and I'll put the list of the playlist in the description box below so that you can take a peek at it. We talked about self-love. And then last week we talked about family love, because sometimes, unfortunately, in the home, love is actually hurting. It's killing us. Well, we're shifting gears this week and we're talking about caregivers because, as I mentioned, so many of us fall into that category. Today, we're going to do some grounding so that you can, if you are a caregiver, get into that mindset that it's okay to take a moment. We're going to practice right here. We're going to do some grounding. We're going to do some breathing. We try and incorporate that in every single session because we know that we're getting you at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. But then again, you may be watching this other times. In fact, I would suggest bookmarking this particular episode, especially if you're a caregiver, because it's so important that you are able to incorporate these little bits of time. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to give some myths that kind of float around in the ether about what caregiving is all about. And I've done some research, some of the big organizations and what they're saying about caregiving and what you actually need so that you can thrive. Because it's no good if the person you're caring for, who only may be surviving at your hands, if you now are not thriving. So many of my friends, starting in late 30s all the way up into the 50s and 60s, have been caregivers over the last few years. And the burnout rate is great. So what can we do? We're not going to throw away our elderly. We're not going to throw away our family members who have special needs, or if you need to take in a child or take in someone because they didn't have anywhere to go, we're not going to throw them away. However, we need to replenish, and we need to know that it's okay. At Getting to After, we are not about gaslighting ourselves. So just because you may think something sounds good, like, well, they come first at all costs, it sounds good. It doesn't feel good. So we're not going to say that here. Can we get an amen on that? Like, we're not going to say that here. We're not going to behave in that way here because it's not healthy. Again, this is the place for midlife women to feel empowered and safe. And if we can't give that to you every Monday morning, why are we here? That's one of the things we want to do. So first things first, let's go ahead and jump into some grounding. Now, the reason why I love grounding is because, and it's something that I often forget to do. I mean, I'll be honest. So if you forget to do it, or you're like, I haven't done it in a while, just remind yourself that it's excellent to do. And this is a safe space to do it in. You can do it with us. You can do it by yourself. You can bookmark this and do it a little bit later, or you can go ahead and have this recording and you can just jump in whenever you need to. Now, the point of this is that we want you to pour back into yourself. Caregiving takes so much time, so much energy, so much effort. We want you to be able to pour back into you. The goal is to bring you back to a centered space, to bring you back to a place where if everything's going a little chaotic and haywire around you, you can still get back to this really special place of presence, of peace, of a tiny bit of joy, and just knowing how much you yourself matter. I'm one of the founders of Getting to After. This podcast was basically born out of the need for midlife women to have some place. Not only do we talk about all the things that affect midlife women, but we help with things like grounding, with centering, with core energy coaching, and specifically with emotional freedom techniques. So we are going to be doing some tapping. If you've never heard of it or never tried it, don't worry. You're in the absolute right place, and we're going to teach you how to do it, and we're going to run you through some exercises so you know exactly what to do. We're going to gently glide into a little grounding, a little centering, a little setting the intention. So the first thing I want you to do is just find a comfortable position. You know, you could be sitting, you can be standing. I think standing is really awesome to do. When it's a little warmer, I live in Maryland and it's kind of cold right now, snowing on and off, raining, etc. When it's not, I like to do grounding outside. I go actually outside into my driveway. I stand. I do all of what we're doing here in my drive. I let the sun come on my face. I feel the breeze. Even if it's cold, I'll do it. As long as the ground's not wet, I will do this in my driveway. I have not graduated to always doing it in the grass. Although if you feel comfortable doing it in the grass, you will see amazing benefits because we are of the earth. And so grounding comes from that idea of getting yourself grounded and kind of that oneness. But what I can tell you to do is take off your shoes, have your feet firmly on the floor, both of them firmly on the ground, and your hands can rest either at your lap or on your sides. We'll do a few little things with our hands. I am actually, for myself here, I'm already all dressed. I'm going to take my rings off, and I'm actually even going to remove my bracelets for this one. I will keep these bracelets these I have to always have, but I want to keep it quiet. These are pretty quiet, and I'll keep my wedding ring on. All right, so here's what we're going to start with. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a really deep breath, and the breath is to release tension. The goal is always to breathe in deeply through your nose and out through your mouth. I'm not going to tell you how many minutes or seconds you have to hold your breath because that may have to do with your health. You may not be able to hold it as long as you want to, but go ahead and try and hold it at the top. I'll go like this, and when it's time to go breathing down through your mouth, you're going to do that, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take a deep breath in through the nose, slow, deep breath. And hold and release through your mouth. Notice a very small noise that might not be picking up. You can make an audible sigh noise. Let's try that again. Another deep breath in through the nose. I want you to think about expanding your belly. So if your hands are here, you may want to go ahead and put them on your belly and feel your belly expand as you take that breath. So in through your nose, hold, out through your mouth. And then one more time, we're going to do that. When you take this breath, think about gathering up all your stress you have, the expectations, the list you have, the exhaustion. And we're going to take one big, deep breath in, and then we're going to release it. You ready? Let's go. And imagine as you're exhaling, you're letting all those things go. The expectation, that list you have, no matter what it is, you're just right now letting that go to allow yourself these few moments of peace. So in step 2, what we're going to do is we're going to reconnect. So reconnection to yourself. Sometimes we get to be at a place where we're really not really where we're in the present moment. Your head may be with mom. Your head may be with dad because he has a doctor's appointment, or with your special needs child. So what we want to do is we want to just kind of drop the shoulders, which often become earrings. Drop the shoulders. We're going to soften the belly instead of letting everything be so tight. Go ahead and do that. So you're going to drop the shoulders. Now, the best way to do that, I find, is to hold your shoulders up as high as they can go. Take them back, almost pinching your shoulder blades together. Take them down and around. So let's try that one more time. You're going to soften your belly as you do this. letting go of everything. You don't have to hold in so tightly right now. We're going to hang on loosely right now. So you're going to take your shoulders up, back, around, and down. Soften your belly. Let go of everything. No need to hold on tightly to anything. And then you're going to think about relaxing your jaw. So you're going to relax your jaw. You may want to touch your jaw. Does it feel tight? Like, are you clenching your teeth? Let your jaw relax. Let your jaw relax. Let your hands relax, right? Wiggle your fingers a little bit. Your forehead. Let everything relax. If you're feeling like you're tense like this, let all of that relax. And you're going to take one hand, you can take it over your heart, one hand on your belly. And just for a few breaths, just feel that. I'm not going to say anything. Why? Just feel how that feels. Now, while you keep your hand over your heart and your hand on your belly, what you're going to do is you're going to say just a couple things to yourself, like, I'm here for this moment. I'm allowed to take up space. I give so much love. I'm worthy of receiving love too. So go ahead and repeat after me. I am here in this moment. I'm allowed to take up space. I give so much love. I'm worthy of receiving it too. Now, notice your feet. They're pressed on the floor. Really press your feet into the ground. What part do you feel your toes on the ground? What part, maybe your arch is up and you don't feel that? Just notice your feet. Notice your legs. And as you're breathing in and out, really kind of steady yourself, being rooted, being supported, whether you're on a chair, you're on the floor, or even if you're standing outside. With every breath, I want you to feel the strength of your body, the steadiness of your body, not your mind. We're letting our mind just be right now, but what is your body feeling? You are standing firm, you're present, and you're capable. You're still a loving caregiver, but you're also you. You have energy that you have to protect. You have a cup that you must fulfill. If your cup is empty, you're going to have less to give to others. So now as we continue doing this grounding, you're breathing in deeply, you're relaxing, you're feeling your feet on the floor, you have your hands in front of you. Go ahead, and while you take this last breath, I would like you to take your hands, just kind of rub them together until you create a little bit of warmth. And then I want you to place them flat on your sides or on your legs and repeat these affirmations. I am strong, but I don't need to do it all alone. I'm allowed to set boundaries, and I'm still loving. I choose to take care of myself with the same love I give to others. Now, if you've had your eyes closed, you can go ahead and open them. We're going to take one more deep cleansing breath, hold it at the top, release it through our lips, just very slightly, and then we're going to go ahead and get onto our topic. Let's do it. Excellent. You know, it's interesting as midlife women, again, we give so much, we're caring for so many people. And sometimes, even though we're very happy to do it, there is a hidden emotional toll. And since we've been talking about love not hurting, it's really important that we start to think about what is that emotional toll? What does that look like? There are real challenges in midlife. Like we're as we've talked about before, we're going gray. We may be losing hair is thinning, the body is changing, things are happening, hormones are all over the place, sleepless nights, hot flashes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On top of aging parents, on top of children growing up and getting married, on top of them making big decisions about their life and you having to be a part of that. Sometimes we end up breaking in the process. We think we're just taking care of others, but actually we're breaking down in the process. And that's not at all what we want. So I did some research to find about some of the myths that are happening in terms of caregiving and why these myths keep us stuck. And they are basically the myths that you'll hear all the time. You'll hear all the time, but I wanted to see what some of these caregiving agencies, the Psychological Association, what are people telling us? What are the professionals letting us know? And this is not an exhaustive list. I picked 5 myths that are out there about caregiving and why it ends up hurting you. You're trying to give love and you're making sure the love doesn't hurt for the person you're giving it to, and yet it could be hurting you. So let's look at myth number 1. Myth number 1 says because I truly love them, I have to do it on myself. Now, I know good and well that you've said this one. I'm sure you've said this one if you're a caregiver. Well, it's my mom. I have to do it on myself. One of my best girlfriend, you know who you are. You know, she actually lost both of her parents in the past couple of years, but she was an amazing caregiver, but she often felt like it needed to be her. She felt that it needed to be her. And her siblings felt the same way too. And eventually they did bring help in, and it was very helpful. The thing is that love is not measured by self-sacrifice alone. Sometimes love is measured by self-sacrifice. It is. Like if you're not willing to do any kind of sacrificing, it's like, where's the love at? But it doesn't mean it has to be all done by you. The National Alliance of Caregiving, in fact, in 2023 said this. They said that caregivers who don't ask for help experience higher rates of burnout, depression, even physical illness. So let's look at this one. You're helping someone else. You're caring for someone else, and now you're breaking down and getting sick. You're burning out. One of the first things that happens when a woman burns out is she takes it out on herself. What does that mean? Over drinking, overeating, not getting enough rest, not taking any personal time for herself, maybe taking up really unhealthy habits, realigning with unhealthy people, just letting her guard down. And so that self-sacrifice, when you're trying to do it all by yourself, really can hurt you. So this is an instance when you may not be able to do it all by yourself. Okay, so you may say to me, but Chatone, I can't afford help. So then you have to like get some buy-in with some other people. It means being a little bit vulnerable. It means asking for help and realizing that maybe somewhere in your community, someone in your environment, someone in your family group is willing to help, but they're thinking, you got it, girl. Right? You ever heard the one, you got it, girl? All right, you tell them I don't got it. I don't, right? And ask for help. Asking for help is not weakness. It is a survival skill. If you think about, I was watching a show the other day and man was learning how to rock climb. But he was like a tough guy, ex-Marine, but he'd never done a lot of harsh rock climbing. And he was being led by someone younger than him. And the ego got involved. That ego got involved in there. The man slipped. Thankfully, he was harnessed and he didn't die or to his demise, but he had to ask for help. He had to realize, as strong as he was, it wasn't a skill that he had. Rock climbing was not in his repertoire. And so because of that, he needed help from someone else. Sometimes we don't want the help. It is not weak. It's survival. And accepting it is not just an obligation. It's like really, really helpful if someone will do something small for you. I know with my mom, my sister and I share custody of caregiving for my mom. My mom still does a lot of things for herself, but she's in her late 80s. So that means we need help. So my sister has called in and enlisted different plus agencies and people in order to help in different ways. Of course, my sister, because her feet are on the ground with my mom in Florida, she does the majority. She's doing a lot of food shopping. She's doing a lot of taking to the doctor. But then I go back and forth. You know, I always say I live in two states, in Maryland and in Florida, because I'm in Florida so often helping to caregive for my mom. So the first myth is that you do not have to do it all yourself. And if you get help, it doesn't mean you don't love them. Actually, to me, it probably means you love them more because you want to give them the best care possible. Myth number 2, I can't complain. I shouldn't complain. Others have it worse. I'm sure you've heard that saying. I don't like this saying, don't should all over yourself, which means that we do that as women. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Oh, I should have done this for her. I should have done this for mom. I should have done that. You know what? Should is one of the things that decreases your positive energy more than anything. It is a way that you gaslight yourself. You think you're supposed to be doing all these things. And so next thing you know, you're like, I should do this. I should do that. You know, I shouldn't complain because others have it worse. Here's the thing. The American Psychological Association in 2022 said that just because someone else's situation is harder doesn't mean your struggles aren't valid. So there may be some who have it much harder than you in their caregiving. Maybe they really are the only person who can get it done because there is no community. Maybe they're an only child, there is no one else. But just because you may have a little bit more support doesn't mean if you're having a bad day or a bad season or a bad year or caregiving is getting to you, means that because someone you know may have it worse and you mean you can't complain. And maybe it's not a complaint, maybe it's just an expression. And allowing yourself enough self-love and enough authenticity and honesty to say, I'm worthy of expressing this. really matters a lot. In fact, that same article said that emotional suppression leads to anxiety, resentment, and higher stress hormones. Now, I don't know about you. Okay, as a midlife woman, the stress hormone is doing its thing. Okay, if you're on any type of social media and you're a midlife woman, they're telling you about cortisol all day long. They have bellies expanding out to here. It's all your fault, right? Like you got too much stress. Buy this pill, take this shot, do this exercise, do this stretch in order to lower these difficult hormones. But guess what? Asking for a little bit of help, being honest about when you need that help, and not comparing yourself with other situations. Yeah, that's called self-awareness. That's called bringing the cortisol down, allowing your sympathetic nervous system to kind of come to your aid. Because the thing is, if we don't do that work, if we don't allow ourselves that grounding time, that intention setting time, that forgiveness time, and that time of expression, you can actually get sick. And then once you're burnt out, you can't take care of them. And then it will hurt you because you're going to want to and not be able to. All right. Myth number 3 is I'll take care of myself later. Right now they need me. Now this one's a tricky one. This is the one that I fell into years ago when my father got sick. My father got sick when I was young, early 20s, when he got very, very sick. Actually, right after my sister's wedding in 1992, my dad was diagnosed with, severe kidney failure. And I was young. 23 years old, not even 24 yet. I had barely learned how to drive on the highway. I was kind of a homebody, and I had to suddenly learn how to do a lot of hard things. I had to learn how to drive long distances, with my father. That may not sound anything, but when you're a person that's really nervous about driving on the highway and scared of things like rain, and splashing and loud noises and things like that, or sleeping by myself in a hotel, I am that girl who pushed a dresser up against the door because I was scared. When you have those kind of things happening and you have to step up, you don't take care of yourself. And so I didn't. I had just found out that I had, in fact, Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue syndrome, but my dad got sick. I put all of my caregiving on the back burner for myself. And I just said, let me take care of what I need to take care of. At that time, I was living in New Jersey. So it was New Jersey to Georgia, New Jersey to Georgia, back and forth for a few years. And then he passed away. Well, by the time he passed away, my health was in the toilet because I did not put myself first. Now, I would not trade one moment that I had with my dad. I would not trade 1 minute, one airline flight, not $1 that I spent in order to help support my mom and my sister while my dad was dying. Well, let's be very clear. At the same time, I should have taken the time to not neglect my own health. I should have taken the time to continue researching what I could do naturally to take care of myself, because by the time I woke up from his passing, my health had really declined. I was young. So imagine you fast forward that 20 years plus, imagine what can happen if you just say, I'll take care of myself later. They need me right now. The Family Caregiver Alliance in 2023 gave this statistic: 60% of caregivers report declining physical health due to the stress, the burnout. It leads to very serious health risk, especially in your 50s, 40, I would say 40s and 50s, heart disease, autoimmune flare-ups. That's what happened to me because Epstein-Barr is an autoimmune disease. All kinds of crazy things were happening. I missed so many of the other things. Like I probably missed how messed up my thyroid was because I was concentrating on other people. And again, I don't regret it. I would spend more time taking care of my dad or going to see my father for one more hug, for one more conversation with him. At the same time, taking 5 minutes to do breathing, to do grounding, drinking the water, which let me take a sip right here because my host is not here to remind me. That's for you, Morgan. Making sure you take care of these small things that you can take care of really matter. Now, myth number 4 is it's my responsibility. No one else will do it. Now, this one seems similar to the other one, but here's what AARP said in 2023, that studies show that women shoulder 75% of family caregiving responsibilities. But here's what I'm going to add. It doesn't mean no one else is supposed to help. So this kind of gets into the thing, if I don't do it, no one else will do it. It's that kind of same thing. But what this one adds to it is that you feeling that it is your responsibility. So even if others are trying to help, you're saying, no. Love means it has to be me. I'm thinking back to all those times my mom supported me. I'm thinking about to what my dad did for me. I'm thinking about what my grandmother, who she was for me. It has to be me. That's what shows my love. Many daughters and women in midlife are the main caregivers, but that doesn't mean they have to do it alone. And just because you've always been the strong one, like, in the family, sometimes there's that strong one, they're always the strong one, doesn't mean you have to carry the entire load. The load sometimes is way too heavy, and you're carrying it and you're carrying it, and your shoulders going down, 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 down. Or in the case of shoulder earrings, up, 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 while you're tense and holding it like this. Holding your body like this leads to burnout. It leads to high blood pressure. It leads to elevated sugar, elevated cortisol. It leads to sugar cravings because that sugar is like a hit. Makes you feel good. But in the long run, it's not what your body needs. If you're able to prevent burnout, you will be better for every single person, including your loved one, which leads us to myth number 5. This is the one we'll always talk about in getting to after. It is one of the main problems that women have, and that is setting boundaries. Not just setting them, but actually living by them and feeling that if they have those boundaries, they're selfish. I mean, it's funny because as you're raising children, there's very few boundaries when it comes to little babies. They cry, you pick them up. You're a mom, you may be sitting on the toilet, maybe in the shower, the bathtub, and you got one attached to the boob, right? Like that happens. And so you don't have boundaries, but as your children age, as they get older, you create boundaries. When you're with your parents, you don't really have any boundaries because you're growing up in their household. But as you grew up and became a woman and got married or left home and went to school and started your job, you created boundaries. And something happens when you start caring for someone else and you're like, I'm being selfish if I have these boundaries. So the Mayo Clinic in 2023 said this. Let me pull up this. This was really good. It said that many midlife women feel guilty for setting limits, fearing that they will be seen as uncaring, ungrateful, or even abandoning their loved ones. However, studies show that caregivers who set clear boundaries experience lower stress levels and better relationships. Now, look, we are bred as women to give and give and give. And many times in a traditional household, that's what you're there for. You are there to give. And it doesn't mean in a bad way. I live in a very traditional household and I'm many times the giver. But you best believe that we share the responsibilities. The responsibilities have to be shared because if not, everyone's going to burn out. And so this idea that it's ungrateful or you're not caring enough, if you're being selfish, if you set a boundary, or if you have to tell somebody no, especially if you're caring for an elderly parent or grandparent or someone who maybe has cognitive impairment, the excessive demands may be too much for you. Sometimes there isn't even cognitive or neurological impairment, and yet the demands may be too much. You may be taking care of a narcissist and it's difficult. What can you do? For your long-term well-being, you have to say no sometimes. Let me repeat that. For your long-term well-being, you have to learn to say no. It doesn't mean no always. It means no now. That could be as small a thing as saying, I won't take phone calls from this person until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or during my work day or while I'm working out or while I'm taking my walk or while I'm spending my time with my kids while they're doing homework or when I call my daughter for our weekly call because she's at college. Whatever that is, you set that clear boundary. And unless it's an emergency and you can quantify what an emergency looks like, don't deviate, because it's that deviation is where the love ends up hurting. Sometimes, again, we gaslight ourselves. We hurt ourselves because we don't want to set clear boundaries because we're afraid of doing that. Resentment then builds, and that does not help anyone. Resentment is just really bad if you're trying to take care of somebody. So look, the whole goal of this particular episode is just to remind you that being silently exhausted in midlife, it's not good enough. There's something more. And even though we have so many things to do, giving yourself even just a couple of hours, means so much. Over this weekend, I went to the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. I haven't been for years. I think it was about 8 years since I've been. I used to go all the time. Life has gotten overly busy, and I didn't realize that. And it wasn't until I sat down inside, they're having an exhibit right now called The Lens of the 70s. It's all photography from the 70s and a lot of beautiful monochromatic pictures and just gorgeous. And I sat there. Then I went to the gallery where I looked at all the Impressionist painters and sculptors. And I had a really emotional moment where I came into myself and I sat there on a bench. I was with no one. I was saying no to everyone else. And I sat and I wrote poetry. And it really took me into another place. Now, I'm not a full-time caregiver. I'm kind of like caregiving adjacent. So for those of you who are doing this every day, what's your museum moment? Where's your bench? Physically, where's the bench you can sit on? Is it one outside your home? Is it covered in snow right now? That's okay. Clear the snow off, put some plastic down, wrap yourself in a blanket, go sit out there for 5 or 10 minutes, just until you get a little bit numb, then run inside the house. What does it look like if you decide to say no to some things so that you can say yes to yourself? Love doesn't hurt, and caregivers need a whole lot of love. It has to start with you, and then it starts with those around you. You let them know what you need. Also, I just want to mention this before we start tapping. Toxic caregiving. Okay, so sometimes you are taking care of someone who's toxic, sometimes physically toxic, and sometimes emotionally toxic. Or you could be taking care of a parent or a grandparent that was mean to you growing up. You still want to be the caregiver for them, but you realize that they haven't changed. And some of that conversation is very negative for you. You have to create a clear ritual about how you're going to disengage when it's time to go. Whatever that looks like for you. I think EFT is amazing. You could do an EFT tapping transformation before you go visit that person or before you go take care of them. You could do some grounding beforehand. You could exit and do the same thing. Clear that energy, clear it away from you so that you're able to step back into your regular life without it bogging you down. Don't feel guilty because sometimes people are toxic and you still love them. But being balanced means caring for yourself while you're caring for that person as well. I hope all this made sense. Let's go ahead and start a little bit of tapping. And this tapping is specifically to help with overwhelm, with exhaustion, with feeling like I have to do it all, that my self-worth is attached to taking care of this person. We want to release all of that, and we're going to get started in just a second. So this is a tapping transformation for caregivers to release overwhelm and reclaim positive energy. This is for you if you're a caregiver, you're giving so much. This is your moment to release the weight of the responsibility, the guilt, the exhaustion, and to refill your cup with compassion and strength. Now, this is something you can do at any given time. If I'm saying something that doesn't really resonate or fit with you, no worries. You can go ahead and substitute your own words. You can tap along with me. You can repeat the phrases either out loud or in your minds. Also, think about how burnout you're feeling, how much exhaustion or how much stress you're feeling around your caregiving right now, and go ahead and give that a rating. Our rating goes from 1 to 10. And it may be that you're feeling, well, I'm feeling not so bad. Say it's only a 3. Great. Maybe it's really rough today and you're feeling like a 10. Maybe this weekend something happened and a family member was rushed to the hospital and you had to stay there all night. Or maybe someone got really sick. Maybe they got the norovirus or something like this. And even though they were already elderly and already had their health problems, it got worse. Whatever it is, we're going to go ahead and give that a rating 1 to 10. And our goal is going to be to bring it down just a little bit if we possibly can. So just think about it for a second. Like think about where you feel it in your body. Is it your shoulders? Is it like that tension that's kind of, is your heart beating hard? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel like a pain in your back? Think about where that is, because we're going to try and see if we can bring that down a little bit with emotional freedom technique. Now, I'm going to say some things and I'm going to do it while tapping. We're going to start on the side of the hand. This is called the karate chop point. Move my mic a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and as I'm doing this, you can go ahead and repeat after me and you can also do the tapping. So even though I feel drained, exhaustion, and stretched too thin, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I give so much to others, and sometimes it feels like there's nothing left for me, I choose to honor my needs too. And even though I feel guilty when I step back, like it's my responsibility, I have to do it. I also remind myself in this moment that I cannot pour from an empty cup. My cup deserves to be refilled. So now we're going to quickly tap through these points. Eyebrow point. There was always more to do, and it feels like it never ends. Side of eye. I'm carrying so much responsibility and feel exhausted. Under eye. Sometimes I feel like I have to do it all myself. Under nose. If I don't, who will? Chin. I want to be there for my family. Why won't someone come help me? Collarbone. It's hard for me to ask for help. I've asked in the past and no one helped. Under the arm. I feel unseen, unappreciated, and drained. Top of head. And yet I just keep pushing through because that's what I do. Eyebrow point. What if I don't have to do it all? Side of eye. What if taking care of myself makes me even better, a better caregiver? Under eye. What if setting boundaries actually creates more love and not less? Love doesn't hurt. Under nose. I'm open to releasing the guilt of needing time for myself. Chin. I release the belief that love means I have to be exhausted. Collarbone. I release the idea that asking for help is weakness. Underarm. I choose to release this heaviness I've been carrying. Top of head. I'm allowed to put myself on my list too. Now let's take a deep breath here. Exhale. How are you feeling? All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go in one more round, one more tapping transformation to bring in strength, renewal, and balance. And we're going to start at the eyebrow point. I am learning to care for myself while I care for others. Side of eye. I give myself permission to rest without guilt. Under nose, under eye. I allow myself to ask for and receive support. Under nose. I'm worthy of love, respect, and care, just like everyone else. Chin. I honor my needs without an apology. Collarbone. I am strong, but I don't have to carry it alone. Underarm. Boundaries are love. Rest is love. I give myself permission to show myself and accept love. Top of head. I choose to release, reset, and receive all that I need. And let's take one final deep breath in. And while you hold that breath, then let it go. We're going to do one affirmation. I'd like you to repeat after me with this affirmation. I am more than what I do for others. My well-being matters just as much as everyone else's. I can love and care for others while also caring for myself. And remember, you're doing enough. You are enough. And you're worthy of the same care you give to everyone else. This is a tapping transformation you can do at any time. It's going to make a huge difference for you. You are worthy. You're worthy of making anything you need to have happen. You're worthy of that. And all you need to do is remember it. Come on back to this recording because it's going to be one of those ones that's going to help you stay grounded and help you to remember that caregiving is important, but you're important too. If you'd like to learn more about tapping, You can always get our limiting beliefs workbook at bit.ly/G28-LB1, where you can learn about how to release limiting beliefs like it has to be you with emotional freedom technique. And if you're looking for a personal session to see what it's like to work one-on-one with me or with Morgan, you can go to bit.ly/tap-chat. I would love an opportunity to meet with you so that you can see what it looks like and what it feels like to go through a tapping transformation one-on-one. It's really, really powerful. I'm glad that you decided to join us. Go ahead and give us some comments about what you'd like to see in Getting to After going forward, and we'll be back and see you next week. Until we do, I am Chatone Morrison, Princess of Positivity. You can release your negativity so your positivity can reign in your brain, in your business, in your big, beautiful life. And until we meet again, be authentic, be brilliant, and be the catalyst. Take care.